Welcome back to the Dress YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful gathered neckline dress with a basque waistline. You can see that the shoulder area and the upper part of the upper bodice of the dress is gathered, while the waistline is fitted and the hem is also gathered as well. I'm going to take you through how to cut and sew this. This is something you would like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of the tutorial. Thank you.
So this is a very simple gathered dress, and I'm going to be using this fabric for it. It's a soft crepe fabric, but I'm going to be drafting on my pattern first before transferring to the fabric. So you can see I have like a mini basic bodice here. This is my hemline, my bust point on the bust, waistline, my hip line, and the full length. It's a short dress. You don't actually need the pattern from your underbust upwards, because as you can see from the thumbnail, the pattern, the upper bodice is actually gathered from the shoulder to the underbust. So from the hip line as well to the full length is also gathered. So I just need this part, but to get this part I will need my bust points and the rest to get this shape that I have. So this is my full bust, round bust measurements here. Here I inserted my waist measurement, and then here I have my hip measurement. This was what made me get this shape that I have, and then I added my seam allowance to it. So like I said, from the underbust upward we are going to be cutting it off. And then for this part as well, for the hem of the dress before the gathers, it depends on the shape that you want for your own. You can make it slanted, okay, in a way that one side is up and then the other side is low. If you are working with that, it means you have to put your pattern on fold by 2 so that I can open it up and get that. But for me, I want the same shape on the 2 sides. That's why I can get away with just having a single pattern. I hope you understand that. If one side is going to be higher in your own case, then it means your pattern has to be on fold so that you can be able to see the 2 sides, and then you can create the shape that you want. So for me, I just wanted to have like a curved basque shape on the hem before adding my gather. So I'm just going to leave it at the half length point here, because mine is not going to be so short. The full length for me is going to be around 36 inches. So the hip line I'm working with is 25 inches. So that's going to be the longest part before adding my gathers. So now to get that slight basque that I'm talking about, from the hip line here on the side, I'm going to come up by around 3 to 5 inches. That's up to you. So let's say I'm working with 3.5 inches. That's going to be around here. So here I'm going to make the part that is my seam allowance straight, and then from there I'm going to take a curved ruler and then connect like this to my hem. Okay, so it's going to just give me a slightly curved shape, which means that I'm going to have this shape on both sides, which is what I want for my pattern. So like I said, you don't need the upper part. So from the under bust, we're going to be replacing it with a gather, so we don't need it. And then here now as well, I'm going to cut it, and then the full length is going to also be replaced with a gather. So you just need this center part. So now I'm cutting this, and then I'm going to keep it aside while we work on the upper part. So this is what I need from this pattern, and this is what I'm going to be using to cut both front and back. For the back, I'm just going to add my zipper allowance to it. Okay, so for the upper part that we are replacing, remember we cut off the upper part. I have a fabric, a pattern here. The length is going to be what you cut off, which is from your shoulder to your half length. So that is the length that I have here, and then the width is going to be how full you want it to be. So I think I have about 26 inches. Okay, I have 26 inches for the width that I'm working with. So this width is what we are going to gather. So depending on how full you want this to be, you can, for 26 inches, from 20 to 30 inches is okay. So now what I'm going to do here is to mark my neckline. This is the center part. So here I'm working with a neck width of 3 inches, and then the depth is going to be the full length. So from there I'm going to connect it to form like a V shape there, and then I'm going to cut that off. So this is the neckline that I'm going to work with. And then the next thing I'm going to do to this pattern is to create like a shoulder slope. So here at the other end, I'm going to come down by around 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to connect to my neck point to form my shoulder slope, and then I'll connect together. So that is all I'm doing. So this is just one side of the front. So to get 2 sides for the front, I will need 2, and to get another for the back, I will need 2, which means we are going to be cutting 4 of this. So 2 for front and 2 for back. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the shoulder slant as well as the neckline measurement. So when you are cutting this, please add your seam allowance to it, because you're going to be sewing it. Okay, so you add seam allowance to this part. You can cut facing for this or just fold it in. I'm going to be folding mine in, so I'll add that farnish on this side as well, and then I'm going to add here and here because this is the opening of the sleeve, and I'm going to be folding it in as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut them on my fabric, and I'll bring it back for us. So like I said, for this I'm going to cut on fold for front, and then for the back I'm going to have my 1 inch seam allowance for the back, and then for this I'm going to cut 4 for both front and back. So after sewing it, we're going to measure what we have on the hem, and then we'll cut the gathers for the hem. So I've got ahead to cut them on my fabric, and you can see the allowance that I left. So on this neckline area, like I said, I'm going to be folding it in, and then on the sleeve part, which is here, I'll also fold it in. Then this lower part is what we are sewing to the lower part here. So we are going to be gathering it to fit what we have. So I'm going to notch this place because my gathers is not going to extend this. This is my seam allowance, so the gather is not going to enter into the seam allowance. So I'll notch this part so that it will be easy for me to note that. So what I'm going to do first now is to detach the pins, and then I'll go ahead and aim those parts. Like I said, I cut 4 of these because I need 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So I have 4 pieces here. So I hemmed it all around. You can see I just folded it in. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and gather this. So now I'm detaching this as well so that I can sew it to the upper part. So this is the front piece. I'm going to open it up. You can notch the midpoint as well. Okay, so now on this midpoint is where this is going to start. Remember, we have 2 for front and 2 for back. So here I'm going to gather this, and you can see my notch where my waistline stop as well, because I said I don't want this to enter into my seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and gather from my center front to the seam allowance. But in this case I want it to overlap a little bit, so I'm just going to come outwards by 1 inch from my seam allowance like this, so that they can lap on each other, and then it's going to cover the chest a little bit. So you do that for one side, and then you do the same thing for the other side as well. Remember, we have 2 for the front. It's going to lap on each other, and then we're going to gather the rest here. So we are going to be lining this. You cut your lining, this lower part here, you cut it exactly the same way, so that when you are done sewing this, you just use the lining to flip it. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to be lining this. So I will take it to the sewing machine now, and then gather it and make it overlap for the front. For the back, because of the zipper, it's not going to overlap. I'm just going to sew it from the center front. I've notched my seam allowance as well, so this is my seam allowance, so I'll sew from center front to where my waistline stops for both sides of the back. Okay, so I've gone ahead to gather it. This is the back. For the center back, you're going to fix a zipper here. I just held it with my stitch first, and then I gathered like this. So you can see, you just gather the lower part to fit into what you have here. And this is the front. For the front, like I said, it's going to overlap. So you can see the little overlap that we have there. So you can see I just placed them on each other a little bit. So now what I'm going to do next is to lay the front and back on each other, and then we're going to join it on the shoulder like this. So I'm going to join it first, and then remember this is in excess, so you can either gather it manually and stitch it, or you use your elastic to gather it. But I'm going to first join them together and then decide on what I'm going to use. So I've gone ahead to sew it. So like I said, you can either gather it manually or with your elastic. So if you're working with your elastic, you just sew your elastic to the seam allowance area and then you drag to gather it. So the measurement you need is around 8 inches, or you can measure from your neck point to maybe 5 inches for sleeve. So that should be enough, okay, to gather it, because remember we have about 26 inches here, so you need to gather it back to what you need, something sizable. So you do that for the two sides, and after that we are going to go ahead and join the side seam together. So after joining the side seam, I'm going to measure the hemline that we have, and then I'll cut the gathers to complete the dress. Okay, so I'm gonna gather it, and this is what we have. This is the back and this is the front. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to measure the hem of the dress. Remember there is going to be a gather to complete the hem. So here, measuring it, I have around 19 inches for the front, so you multiply that by 2, so which means for front and back you have about 38 inches. So this 38 inches you can multiply by 2 or 3 depending on how full you want it to be, and that's going to be the width of the fabric you're cutting. And then the length of the fabric is going to be the length that you will need to complete this. Remember, from my hip line where I shaped it, which is here, to the full length here is around 11 inches thereabout. So I'm going to add 2 inches seam allowance for hemming and for joining, so I have about 13 inches. So I'll go ahead and cut the fabric of length 13 inches, and then the width is going to be what I have here multiplied by 2 or 3. So after that, you are going to go ahead and hem the lower part of the fabric first. Then after hemming the lower part, we're going to gather this upper part all around the dress. I'm going ahead to gather it. You can see now, I can see the small basque effect that we have there. So I'll just go ahead and iron this, and then I'm going to take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. This is the back front, and this is the back as well.
So this is what it looks like on the mannequin. You can see how beautiful it is and how simple it is to make this. The back, you just need to fix your zipper at the back. I just held mine to both ways. So when you fix your zipper, your dress is good to go. It's a beautiful dress, as you can see, and it's really simple to make. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. Let me get us in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one.